Prime Minister Edi Rama has accused the Democratic Party of damaging the international reputation of the country through their protest actions, again calling for dialogue to remain on the path towards integration. The European Commission expressed concern over the high rate of public-to-private partnership agreements in Albania, warning they could affect the economic stability of the country. Despite the European Commission's concern, the Minister of Infrastructure and Energy, Belinda Baluku, today submitted 2 further tender proposals for new roads valued at €213 million. It's 6 o'clock on Thursday, the 30th of May, 2019. Good evening and thank you for tuning in to RTV Ora's English edition. My name is Alexandra, bringing you the only daily update of the local Albanian news translated into English. We will be interrupting our regular programming this evening to join Lulzim Basha, head of the Democratic Party, live from Krubin. Okay, we'll be continuing on with our top story for tonight. After receiving the report of the European Commission, the majority have launched a political assault on the opposition over the image that they have created in European Union countries as a result of their continued protests. Speaking from the parliamentary podium, Prime Minister Edi Rama reiterated allegations that the Democratic Party and the Socialist Movement for Integration lack the will to contribute to the path towards the European integration. Once again, he called for dialogue. The report also outlines what the opposition should be doing today, and there is no alignment with what they are actually doing. We remain determined to stimulate a dialogue process with the opposition, but under no circumstances are we willing to negotiate the terms of the Constitution. The purpose of the Constitution is to provide fundamental law that we are all forced to respect, and it includes that the elections belong to the people, not the parties. We have the willingness to dialogue, but we never will negotiate the legitimacy and obligation for the continuation of this parliament, said Rama. MPs of the new opposition advised Rama that they intend to bring a new spirit to politics through their parliamentary presence. For the former Foreign Minister, Ditmir Bushati, the European Commission report is an overview of how political parties must face and take on their responsibilities. The EC's recommendation shows that this is our moment. It gave an overview of the reforms undertaken. The report provides a clear picture of all achievements, but on the other hand, shows an overview of what still needs to be achieved. It is time for a greater political understanding, as the European Albania requires a different level of standards, expressed Bushati. EU Ambassador Luigi Soreca submitted the positive recommendations of Brussels to the Parliamentary Speaker, Gramos Rucci, and then to the members of the Integration Commission. The head of the EU delegation also sent the report to the Democratic Party Chair, Lulzim Basha. One day after the European Commission's recommendation to open negotiations for Albania's acceptance into the EU, Foreign Minister Gent Sarkaj issued a statement explaining that Albania has fulfilled all the obligations and, as such, received a well-deserved assessment. As the decision-making responsibility belongs to the European Council, Sarkaj said the government will launch intensive dialogue with member states to open negotiations in June. From now on, the government will continue intensifying political dialogue with member states to make our historical aspiration a reality. That is, to enable the country to open membership negotiations. It is of mutual interest for Albania to start membership negotiations immediately in June. This ideal requires everyone's commitment, said Sarkaj. Sarkaj added that the government does not bear the responsibility of determining the date for the opening of negotiations. There was a general approach that the European Union must once again be consolidated from within before being ready to expand from the outside. Taking this lesson learned from last year, that there are cases where judicial policies can prevail over technical considerations, I, to be correct with you, and for this government to be correct with each citizen, do not take responsibility as to when we are given the final promise as to when the negotiations will take place, reiterated Sarkaj. Asked whether the political crisis could negatively affect the Council of Ministers' decision in June, he had the following answer. The Commission finds that Parliament is functional and is ready with full capacities to carry out its functions. The report has also a message for the opposition. The report says the opposition must be re-included in democratic institutions. Currently, we have ceased to be democratic and to act within the framework of democratic institutional conduct. The EC says it is necessary to overcome the the political polarisation in the service of major European interest, and it is quite clear who has engaged in the work to move forward on the European agenda and who has taken action to violate the reforms, the international image and the possibility of opening negotiations. If the member states determine the behaviour of the opposition as a reason for not opening the negotiations, this is another issue, but it does not cowardice us from full engagement towards the opening of negotiations. The EC has clearly stated that electoral reform and the possibility of unification of politics in Albania have been damaged by the opposition's behaviour despite government efforts. The report proves that all the technical criteria have been met by the government and that the content of the report makes the opposition responsible for non-democratic behaviour, the degree of implementation of electoral reform and the possibility for Albania to consolidate the electoral system in general, putting at risk the broad pro-European social consensus Albania currently needs. However, we will continue because Albania's positive agenda cannot be affected by anyone, concluded the acting Foreign Minister for Albania, Gent Sakai. The European Commission asks the government of Edi Rama to take greater care in regards to private-public partnership concessions. Although the report notes that the country has had a positive economic growth, these projects are seen as a fiscal risk, especially given that public debt is so high at 67.3%. In the report recommending the opening of negotiations for Albania, it was stated that most PPP contracts have been selected on the basis of unsolicited bids, thus reducing competition in procurement. Economic experts argue that these initiatives are affecting the economic stability of the country. Even economics expert Adrian Civici states that there are no concrete forecasts for PPPs in Albania. Civici calls for greater transparency from the government to take these agreements into account when calculating and reviewing debt. Concerns over PPP projects have also been raised by international financial institutions such as the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. Even though the law prohibiting unsuccessful bids for PPPs on infrastructure has passed through the Law Commission, it has not yet been approved by the Parliament. Although the Minister of Infrastructure and Energy, led by Belinda Baluku, promised to reduce the cost of building both the Milot Baldren Road and the Orecum Logora Road, such a thing has not happened. Even with the EU criticising and warning of the risk of PPPs, the Ministry has submitted to Parliament 2 further projects for the above-mentioned roads, totalling a cost of €213 million. The opposition and experts have also called this a very high cost, saying the value equates to about €9 million per kilometre. Prime Minister Edi Rama explained that this cost is justified by the roads being built to the highest possible standards and that the projects foresee the inclusion of overpasses, underpasses and bridges. The Prime Minister went on to emphasise that the development of PPP projects is not an abusive or criminal scheme, but an opportunity for the country's development. However, the opposition declared that they see the projects as blatant theft. The Milot Baldren Road project is worth €161 million and stretches for 17.2 kilometres. Meanwhile, the Orecum Logora Road has been given an estimate of €50.5 million and envisages the construction of a 14.7 kilometre axis linking Vlora's yacht harbour with Orecum and the Ducati bypass. A missing agreement between the Albanian government and the Italian government for recognising working years and retirement funds has brought together dozens of Albanian citizens in protest. The Albanian government has been negotiating with 14 countries in regards to retirement fund agreements, including with Italy, but the delay in reaching this agreement has caused Albanian emigrants to call on Italian Ambassador Alberto Cutillo to seek intervention. The emigrants directed for the request for retirement funds to the Foreign Ministry, where they demanded the intervention of the Albanian state in order to recognise their working years in Italy. Approximately 22,000 Albanians are estimated to be reaching retirement age during the year 2019. We will now be interrupting our feed for the English edition to go live for the presentation of the Shqipënia overpass.